All right, here we go. Take one.
What does it mean to be truly authentic to yourself? Humanistic psychologists would say that by definition, authentic people possess a number of common characteristics that they show that they are psychologically mature and fully functioning as human beings. They have realistic perceptions of reality. They are accepting of themselves and they are accepting of other people. They're thoughtful. They have a non-hostile sense of humor. They're able to express their emotions freely and clearly. They're open to learning from their mistakes and understanding their motivations. If behind what a person says and does is a defensive and self-deceptive approach, then no matter how passionate and committed they are to a cause, ultimately, they are not being true to themselves. Authenticity is ultimately about those qualities that show healthy, non-defensive functioning and psychological maturity. Those are the qualities that we need to look for. When you commit to being your authentic self, you start to learn what makes you happy. Now, I want everybody to stay tuned as we're going to talk to a life coach that is committed to helping others find that self of authenticity. Don't go away.
Trapped in a dream, a cave nightmare, taunted by lies, climbing Everest without a rope.
Hey, Highness has been my greatest pursuit in life. I spent years looking for it through drugs, through relationships, and external paths with no long-term gain. It wasn't until I found it within myself while clean that I gained the real appreciation for this gift. My name's Eric McCoy, and welcome back to High While Clean. Appreciation gave me pleasure to enjoy what I have. Happiness allowed me to smile and feel good about things even when things got tough, or finding the real me or becoming that authentic person made life so much easier as I didn't seem to have to work so hard for it. But not working hard because, I am now me is the result, not the answer to that sometimes difficult question of who I am. As a child, prior to my drug use, that was the answer that I was always looking for. Erik Erikson, and some may know this who studied psychology, who was a German-American developmental psychologist and a psychoanalyst known for his theory on psychological development of human beings. He identified identity versus role confusion. And this was the age of adolescence, meaning those between 12 and 18 years old. And questioning of self. Who am I? How do I fit in? Where am I going in life? The adolescent is exploring and seeking for their own unique identity. And this is done by looking at personal beliefs, goals, and values. The morality of the individual is also explored and developed. Erikson believed that if the parent allows the child to explore, they will determine an identity. If the parents continually work to conform their child to their views, the teen is going to face identity confusion. The teen is also looking towards, the future in terms of employment. They're looking for the idea of relationships and families. Learning the roles that they provide in society is essential, since the teen begins to develop the desire to fit into society. Fidelity is characterized by the ability to commit to others and acceptance of others, even with differences. Identity crisis is the result of role confusion and can cause the adolescent to try out different lifestyles. Now, I can relate to this confusion growing up. And then of course, I combined that with my drug use that pushed me further into a disconnect from myself, my values, my morals, my perspectives, and my ideology. I went through my first treatment program at 16, and then they gave me new insight and teachings that were, I guess you could say, thrust upon me before returning to another run. This process continued for a lot of years as I eventually lost all meaning and understanding of who I was and how to connect or interact with other people. Now, Gerald Czernohorsky, my guest today, is in recovery and currently a Shetty life coach. He works mostly with individuals that are seeking and wanting to live a life to their true, authentic self. They're seeking a purpose and they're seeking a meaning. And Gerald is here to talk a little bit about his story. He's going to tell us what he does, what it's about, and hopefully offer hope to others. Thank you, Gerald, for joining me today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm really full of gratitude for being on your show. It really means a lot to me. I love your podcast. I love your message. I love how you're trying to help make the world a better place.
Thank you.
If I can help in any way, it would give me a lot of pleasure.
Yeah, and I think you're going to give us a good message, because this question of the authentic self is something that is, very difficult for a lot of people to grasp, I believe, and especially in terms of, their drug use, when they're using, and kind of like I had said, there's a real disconnect between, who am I? I'm this way. I have values. I get loaded. I lose them all. And then as that continues on and on and on, we sort of go further and further and further away from ourselves. When I got clean initially in 2002, I had no idea who I was. And so I wanted to first of all ask you a question. So you're a Shetty life coach.
That's correct.
What is that about?
Well, life coaching, it's not what a lot of people might think it is. Myself, the way I've been trained, I do not ever tell somebody what to do or what I think they should do. I simply ask them questions that will hopefully guide them to what they're looking for, if that makes any sense at all.
100%.
If I were to tell you, I think you should do this, and I don't even know anything about you, or I don't know enough about you, what I could be telling you to do could be completely wrong. And I really believe that if you figure it out for yourself, you get that aha moment. It's so empowering. It gives you that, like, wow, I figured that out. Of course with help, but never do I ask questions that are leading. The first thing I do when I'm on a discovery call, which is what I like to call a call in which I'm just getting to know the potential client, and then hopefully convert that person into a client, is I really kind of go over our framework, and it all begins with awareness. We need to be aware of, where we are in life and what we want out of life. If we're not even anywhere close to awareness, then we're probably not ready for any type of coaching. And usually when you do come to seek out a coach, you're already there. So I go through that whole framework. And then after I go over the framework. Part of the framework is actually, talking about goals. And, with each call, you try to have an outcome where there is some sort of a plan in place where they can achieve a goal. And I talk about goals, not goals being big, but there are many tiny steps to achieving that goal. And then you want them to really kind of think, how can I, get to point A when I'm at point B? Or when I'm at point A, how do I get to point B, rather? So that's really what, in my opinion, what coaching entails. You're over here and you don't want to be here, and you want to be here. And how do you get there? And I kind of help them get clarity and focus, and help them move in that direction.
Yeah, if you've listened to my podcast, I 100% am on board with what you're talking about. So you're more of a non-directive, which I'm a firm believer in. We can't tell people, obviously, what we want them to do, because it's not about them living my life. It's about them obviously living their life, which is sort of, I think, what you're talking about by defining, where do you want to go in life? What's important to you? And I completely agree with that mentality.
Well, exactly. And like, I listened to your podcast, and in one of your podcasts, you talk about somebody who's an addict. If they are told they have to go to rehab, they're less likely to succeed, as opposed to if they go on their own. And I think that's kind of the link there is with coaching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the success rate is going to be way higher if people decide to go on their own. Treatment, the substance abuse field is difficult in a lot of ways, because normally in most cases people are forced, not literally forced, because as adults they can easily say, no, I don't want to go, but there's pressure that's put upon them. But I firmly believe that in the like the intake calls during this screening process, which could be that mentality of the coaching style, is getting them to make that decision for themselves. Yeah, nobody's going to make it if they're doing it for somebody else. And if they are, in the beginning, we need to change that. We need to work to help them decide, what, this is the best thing for me. This is what I want to do. Now, I've never heard of, who's the guy that the
Jay Shetty?
Jay Shetty. Who is that?
Well, he's actually a pretty famous, person on social media. He's had several Facebook videos that have gone viral. He's actually a former monk, and that's kind of what drew me to his, certification, life coach certification. A lot of what he talks about really resonates with me. A lot of because I looked at different life coaching schools over the last few years, and none of them really spoke to me the way he does. And actually, I was getting frustrated because I couldn't find a life coaching program that I liked. So I actually started to put together my own, but I didn't have the confidence or belief in myself to do it. So I just kind of put it on the back burner. And then during the whole COVID, the first round, last March, I see this ad in my Facebook feed, and it was all about the Jay Shetty Life School. And I said, wow, I didn't even know he had a life school. And I checked it out, and I signed up right away. And within within 3 months, I was certified. 3 to 4 months, I was certified as a life coach. I mean, I worked hard at it, and it really, his whole program spoke to me. And then as I was doing the program, I said to myself, it sounds a lot like what I wanted to teach people or impart upon people. So I went back through my old notes, and I said, wow, a lot of what he talks about is what I wanted to talk about. So I was just like, I had no idea how close I actually was. And I think the one thing that I did not know or would not have known is the approach of asking and guiding, as opposed to, telling people, oh, this is what you have to do, or this is what you have to do, So yeah, that's kind of who Jay Shetty is. And
Now, you said in the beginning, before we actually started doing this, and I want to come to that for a second, that, and I had mentioned before, about 40% of people that are in recovery have never gone to treatment or a 12-step program, and you fall in that category, which kind of excites me because I've said many times, I would love to hear from these people. And because of that, there's so many ways to do this. And so you had a drinking problem. Is that?
yeah, I had a love affair with alcohol. It was, and it started when I was probably 16, 17, and for me, it was almost like a socializing agent, because I'm very much an introvert. And part of my problem was not so much anymore. It was, I really fear judgment, other people judging me. So when you drink, you kind of lose your inhibitions, and like, you become a different person. And sometimes I like that person, but honestly, probably most times I didn't. So I started drinking, in 10th, 11th grade in high school, and I started, and then I would do it through university, and it was mostly just to party and whatnot. But then, because I wasn't living a life that's true to who I am, to my authentic self, I began getting frustrated. Like, I was taking jobs that I probably shouldn't have taken, jobs that just weren't meant for me, weren't right for me, corporate type jobs, working in an office, working in a business environment, and it's really not who I am. And so all week I felt like I was in prison, and then on the weekends I would drink to get over all the pain I was enduring during the week. I don't know if that, resonates with anyone out there, if that makes sense, but that's my journey. And I had a lot of personal issues that I just that I was not even aware of. And so drinking was the only thing that would make me, forget about my pain and, help me cope with life. So, yeah, but oh man, there were some nights I just drank to oblivion. Like, I just.
So how did you find yourself? How did you remove yourself from that situation?
Well, it was a long and difficult struggle, because there were a few times in my life where I actually gave it up for 6 months, and then one of my friends would say, "Oh, come on, just have one drink," and I'd be like, oh, "Okay, just one." But as an alcoholic, you can't just have one drink. It's just like, it primes you for more and more and more. And people think that just because you have a drink every day, you're an alcoholic, and that's not my definition of alcoholic. An alcoholic is somebody who has one drink and then he can't stop. There was no off button for me. I would just drink and drink and drink, and my God, like, and it's not something that I'm proud of and want to boast about, but the amount of alcohol I could drink would probably, kill two people that don't drink. So what was I doing to myself? What was I doing to my body? Unfortunately, I don't think I would be around today if I didn't give up drinking. So I'm, very grateful that I did.
How long ago was that?
It'll be 15 years this April.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I woke up one day. I wasn't working, and I said, I can't do this anymore. Like, I really can't. I got to change. There's got to be something better out there for me. There's got to be something more to life than just taking jobs I hate, getting fired more times than I care to admit, and then like just drinking all the time, you know. So I couldn't deal with it anymore. I said it's got to stop, and I gave it up, and then I got a job, which I shouldn't have taken, which lasted about a week and a half. I was working for a guy, and I was trying to sell his products. I'm really good at selling myself, but I really suck at like selling to other people. So I sold myself in the interview. He hired me, but unfortunately, I was working right beside him, and I was just too nervous. I couldn't communicate or talk the way I wanted to because I was too focused on what he was going to think or say. Again, a fear of being judged. So that didn't work out. But thank God I didn't like go back to drinking, which is what I normally would have done, right? Like something bad happens, oh, woe is me, and then I would just drink and drink. But I didn't, and within a week I got another job, and that was actually the last job I've ever had. So I hated that job. It was hard. I worked for a bank in a call center, and I'm not a fan of banks or call centers, and I just don't think banks are out to serve anybody. They're just out to serve their own greedy corporate selves. So my values weren't aligned with who I am working at the bank. And don't get me wrong, a lot of the people I worked with at the bank are amazing and wonderful people. I mean, I can tell you a story where I worked with a guy who was number one in the country for converting customers into buying insurance for their credit product. Number one. And he should have won the top award for our division, and that would have been a week's cruise, and he could take anyone he wanted. But because he was a really good friend of mine, and because he was always hanging out with me, and I wasn't liked at the bank, they were always trying to figure a way they could get rid of me. They didn't give him that prize. And so I still to this day joke with him, and I say, I owe you a cruise, and he's a great guy though, like amazing, like he's got great values, and so there's a lot of great people, but working at the bank was just not where I should have been. See, I always felt that I had to be like everyone else, and I have one of the things that I believe I'm really good at is I'm really good at evaluating talent and strength in other people. And my closest friends are all super overachievers. I've got a friend who works for one of the automotive companies, and he's probably the best in the world at what he does. And you wouldn't know it to talk to him and speak to him. But he confided that in me in one night. And then I've got another friend who rose the ranks of the Canadian Navy faster than anyone in the history of the Navy. And these are the kinds of people that I've attracted into my life. But I couldn't figure out why are they having all this success and I'm not. And, when I started to just live to my true authentic self and start doing things that really meant the most to me, that's when I felt I started to become the person I was meant to be. And I live by my values now, and I do what's important to me. And I think that so many great and wonderful things are happening and are going to continue to happen.
So if you were to define your authentic self, what would that be?
Okay, I'm somebody who really cares a lot about other people. So I'm kind and caring, and I'm very generous. I'm very generous with my time and with my with my time with my friends and family. I'm somebody who is very concerned about uh, my health and the health of others. Part of the thing that I want to help people with is not just living a true authentic self, but it's also about living a healthier life. And I think when you're living a life that's kind of true to who you are, you're naturally going to want to be healthier because you're enjoying life, and you want to live as long as you can, right? Like when I wasn't like living an authentic life, I mean, drinking till 3 in the morning and then going and getting a pizza and then like sleeping till noon. That's no way to live life. And now, I'm in bed at 9:30, 9 o'clock, and I'm up at 5. And these are all things that resonate with me and are true to me. I love being up early in the morning when no one else is up. I can just focus on myself, and I can kind of plan out my day. What do I need to do today to have a successful day? So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but to me, I meditate every day, and that's important because I think that if the whole world meditated, we could probably end violence all over the world. I know it's a very kind of hippie mindset or whatever, but
Or a Buddhist?
or Buddhist. Well, yeah, for sure, right? So I'm a person that I don't, I don't like violence. It doesn't have any place in society. I'm a person that I'm always, I'm always there for other people. And like my journey, it's been full of a lot of ups and downs and a lot of emotional pain. But I think that emotional pain has made me the person that I am today, and I honestly believe that I'm somebody that anyone can count on. Like if somebody, one of my close friends or somebody that I really know and care about called me, I would be there in a second for them if I could, you know. So yeah, I'm just somebody who cares a lot about humanity. I'm a human connector. I think that human connection is the most valuable commodity we have. Being able to connect with other people, um, it it just, for me anyways, it brings so much joy to have a deep and meaningful conversation with somebody and get to the heart of the matter. Um,
What
so.
types of people do you work with? Now, do you work with people in the substance abuse, or is this more of people that are in corporate world or in the?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question. And people ask me who is my ideal client, and my ideal client is probably somebody who did drink or substance abuse. They were me, 15 years ago when I was completely lost and completely unconscious. And maybe they're not drinking anymore. Maybe they've stopped drinking, or they've stopped doing drugs, but they have that history in them, and they're still at that point where they're looking for answers. They want to know what it means to be authentic and true. And I'll tell you something, that since I started living a life that's true and authentic to who I am, I'm able to make much better choices for myself. Like I'll never take a job again just to take a job. Uh, I will be very, if I ever have to take a job again, it'll be to take a job that actually really resonates with me. And that's going to be somebody that's in a place where I can help people.
Yeah, that substance abuse, clientele that, you said that you really like to work with, they're sometimes some of the most challenging. And I think there's a lot of roadblocks that they sort of have. Obviously some of them grew up in very abusive, upbringings. Some of them had parents that ingrained upon them that they're horrible, they'll never amount to anything, and so they have this belief system a lot of times within them that is a battle. So they have to figure out, okay, how do I change this? How do I alter this? It's something I teach a lot to clients is, we need to look at our belief system. We need to change our belief system. What belief do you need to have to achieve what you want in your life? And that's where we need to go. Obviously we do like positive affirmations, which can be, a powerful way to change our belief system. Our mind doesn't know the difference between what we tell it and things we experience. And, and then obviously having as I was saying earlier, the disconnect of values, of morals and things like that, of, what is important to you. So I wrote a book called Pain, Failure, and Misery Are the Stepping Stones to Success. And one of the chapters in there is called Let's Get Spiritual. And I talk about, spirituality, because that's one of the things that pushes so many people away from the recovery world. Is they're like, oh God, are you kidding me? I can't believe in God, or I don't believe in God, or, there's a disconnect. And so I kind of break down that word spiritual, with spirituality says to be spiritual says to have spirit, right? And spirit is where I think the real meaning comes in. Spirit is defined as, one of the meanings behind it is to have a meaning and have a purpose in your life. You can look at, from the religious standpoint, they have a purpose to live in the godly way, to be, to spread the word. So they'll have a purpose, so it fits in with that also, but it can fit in with anybody, it can fit in with the concept of, what is my purpose? I can live with purpose in any area of my life. I can live with it's not that, cliche, like, what's your purpose in life, kind of scenario, that,
Yeah.
but it can be that, I can live with purpose in my recovery. I can live with purpose in my relationships, live with purpose in, all these different areas of my life, because to live without purpose is to live at the mercy of chance. Maybe this will happen. This might happen. This could happen, and I think that is important. I look at the people that, are in recovery and the ones that really succeed in this. They're the ones that they have a direction. They know where they're going, what they're doing, why they're going to do it. They have a path. It's the ones that don't, that are just sort of walking aimlessly. Those are the ones that are in trouble. And that's what I like what you were saying in the message you sent me too, was that part of this is helping people find a meaning, find some kind of purpose. And obviously within the context of what you do is obviously not telling them what that is, which is important.
Yeah, no, for sure. Right. Well, one of the questions that I like to ask my clients, if they're really struggling, I just say, look, you want to change your life and you want to do something different. What would you do if money didn't matter? And then they're like, oh, wow, I never thought of that, because people don't, right? Like, because we're all focused on, oh, we got to have this job, we got to work, we got to pay our bills, buy our groceries, pay our rent or our mortgage, whatever it is. And we're all like living in fear and scarcity. And I think that when you start to live authentically and like you said, live a purposeful life, in everything you do, there's purpose. The universe just kind of opens up and expands for you, and you see more opportunities than you don't, and you don't have this scarcity mentality. You have this mentality of abundance, and I know because I had that when I was younger. You were talking about how your childhood, like if you had parents, like nothing was ever good enough for my parents, right? Nothing, and so I would feel like worthless. and I think that's one of the reasons probably why I started to drink, because I had such low self-worth, because I didn't believe in myself. I didn't think I could do anything. And I remember, like, trying to find jobs, and I'm like, okay, if I get a job, can I do the job? Because, in my head, I'm always saying I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough, because I never got that.
Mhm.
So really, it comes down to, like, really having all this hardwired in me, and then having to kind of reverse it. And it took me a long time. It took me years. And thank God for some of my close friends who were there for me, who told me that they believed in me, and when you have people telling you that they think you're, like, really smart when you don't, there's a disconnect, and then you got to you start questioning, maybe I am smarter than I think, and maybe I just haven't found what I'm supposed to be doing or what I'm good at. And so, yeah, I think, our belief system is so powerful. And, uh, I realized about 4 years ago that I 4.5 years ago that I really didn't love myself. I was with a woman, a girlfriend, and, like, for a year, but for a year I paid for everything. She wasn't working, and at the end of it, like, I had nothing. I left her because she made a comment to me, and I just said, I can't do this, and I left. But I was hoping that she would, come after me, and she didn't. And I'm like, I was so good to her. I mean, I paid for everything. I paid for her rent. I paid for her car payments. I paid for her groceries. I paid for her daughter's private school, and that, like, so, like, that's when I realized, wow, I really don't love myself. I wouldn't have done that if I don't think I would have done that if I loved myself, you know.
Because you were trying to make her happy. Was that the?
I was trying to make her happy, and I was seeking her approval, because at one point in the early stages of the relationship, she made a comment that she's never had a man that she could trust or hold on to, or feel comfortable with. So I tried everything to make her feel comfortable, but that's when I realized, well, not that at that point, but shortly after I left her, I was having a conversation with a really, good friend of mine, and he goes, Jerry, I think she was a narcissist. And I'm going, what? Like, I've heard the term bandied about, narcissism. And of course, I got stuck on that, and I started watching videos and reading articles on narcissism. And then I came across this one, and then, like, one point after another, yeah, she did this to me, yeah, she did this to me, yeah, she did this to me. And that's when I realized, wow, I am what they call a codependent, or self-love deficient. So I don't love myself.
Mhm.
So 4 years ago, I started working on that, and then I've gotten much better, and but it's a hard process. Like, I was addicted to alcohol, but I was also addicted to not loving myself and trying to please everybody, and people walking all over me. And that was almost as hard to overcome as my addiction to alcohol. I had to start setting boundaries. And believe me, when you start setting boundaries to people that have been taking advantage of you all your life, they freak out, and they start blaming you. And that's when you realize, like, okay, who are my true friends now?
Mhm.
And fortunately, the people that understood where I was coming from are still my friend, are still my friends. So
Yeah, the only person that we can make happy is ourselves. We can't make anybody happy. We can be happy with somebody, but and it's really interesting if you look at it from a real standpoint. Is like, you could go do the nicest thing in the world for somebody, and in your mindset, you're like, oh my God, this is going to make this person so happy. And then you go about doing it and they're not happy. But then later you do the same thing and then they're happy, right? So it has nothing to do with what you're doing. It has whatever's going on with them, you know,
For sure.
that is causing that happiness. And I learned that too throughout my life is, you know, the only person I can make happy is me. The only person that, you know, I have control over is me. The only thing I'm responsible for is me. And I think that's where we find the power behind stuff. You know,
Yeah.
like self-responsibility, that concept. And a lot of people think of that, I think, backwards, but self-responsibility is where we take control back over our life. You know, I am responsible. And so I'm going to make the decisions and I'm going to take responsibility. So obviously I want to start making good decisions. You know,
I agree 100%. You know, um, part of my process was learning to love myself, and you know, I do my affirmations and I do my meditation, and I practice gratitude. I write in a gratitude journal every day. But one of the questions I ask myself now is, okay, am I in a situation now where I'm loving myself? And if the answer is no, then I change my situation, right? Or just I realize that I'm in control of my feelings and what I can do. So if somebody's not appreciating me or not being nice to me, I don't have to be nice to that person or try to get that person to like me if they're not going to appreciate me. I have the power to say, okay, I've tried to do these things. It doesn't seem to work with this person. And I'm just going to stop. I'm not, you know, and then and then if they react, well, you know, they react, but I'm not doing it to try to control them. I'm just doing it to respect myself and to make the choice for myself because I love myself now. Does that make sense?
absolutely. So when you're doing your coaching, how do people find you?
Well, I have a website. Um, I also have an Instagram page and I have a Facebook group. The Facebook group is Living Authentically. My Instagram page is at Jerry the Coach, and my website is jerrythecoach.com. But I'm also like being a guest on this podcast, for instance, is another way where I could potentially reach clients. I also have a meetup group here in Montreal where I live, and you know, I just started it a few months ago, and it's starting to build a little bit of momentum. And I'm reaching out to different. There's different groups that I can reach on Facebook groups where there's different coaching organizations, and I can just go on there and I can reach out to people when I see them making a comment on a post. I'll reach out to them. Oh, I saw that you commented on that post. It's really interesting, and just, you know, make a connection like that. Because when I first started coaching, I really struggled with believing in myself, I guess, and not understanding what value am I going to bring to somebody as a coach. And I had this discussion with one of my close friends, and he basically told me, he said, Jerry, the value that you give to anybody is the fact that you're honest and you're genuine and you really care about them, and you're able to establish a bond better than most people. So that made me again believe more in myself, and that's, you know, I had an aha moment when he mentioned that, and I said, you know what, he's right, because I really do. I don't just want to coach somebody for money, like, and I won't coach somebody just to get a client. I want to make sure that they're going to get the most out of this. That it's going to be transformational. That it's going to have such a huge impact on their life that they're, you know, going to live a life of more freedom. Because when you start to live authentically, you know, there's just more freedom in your life. You feel free. You don't feel burdened by this non-belief in yourself and this attitude of, oh, I can't do this or I can't do that. It's more like, wow, I think I can do that, or I can do that, or I should at least try and do that. It sounds like it's fun. So I really, for me, it's so important that I establish a really strong connection and rapport with whoever I'm coaching. I won't just coach somebody just to coach somebody and get paid for it, you know?
For me, the field that I work with, it really wasn't about money, and it's not about money at all. For me, it's really about reaching people, helping people. I love what you talk about, because you're talking about, the rapport building process, that building that rapport, that trust. You got to have that. Nobody's going to open up to you unless there is some kind of faith in you or trust in you that, number one, you know what you're talking about, and that, you have the ability to help them, but them also understanding that, there are limits, obviously, to the help that you can give. A lot of times over the years, I've worked with different people that were coaches, now where they came from, I don't know. But I also saw them as crooks in a lot of ways, because of what their tactics were, methods were, the amount of money they charged, and how little they actually did for these people. And in some cases, actually indirectly killed them, because, led them in, the wrong direction and things like that. Now, obviously, I don't blame the coaching profession for that, because obviously everybody's different. And we obviously have, I honestly believe, people that really do care and that really want to see people succeed.
Yeah, well, I can actually speak to that because I was really frustrated when I was working at the bank, and I said, life's got to get better. Life's got to get better. And then I ran into an acquaintance at a wedding, and he told me he was in real estate investing. And I said, oh, really? Cool. And he goes, yeah, and you can go in and you can, you don't need any of your own money, blah, 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 all this stuff, right? So I said, well, how did you get started? He goes, well, if you're really interested, why don't you read a few books? So he suggested a few books. And the first book I read, it just like, wow, it really, like, it opened a light bulb, right? The light turned on, and I said, wow. So like the way I think this guy is speaking to me about how, we're not all just supposed to, like, if we just spend our whole life just working to live and barely getting by, that's not a life. And that's how I felt. So of course I got really into it, and then I went to a few real estate investing seminars. And then the next thing I know, I signed up for like thousands and thousands of dollars worth of coaching. And you know what? It didn't pay out for me. Like the return on my investment was like negative, right? And for two reasons, right? I was doing it just for the money, because I thought, wow, I could have all these properties and I won't have to work, and I'll have all this money coming in. And I wasn't being authentic, so hard lesson learned, a lot of money spent, but that's the part of coaching that I don't like. And it's, oh yeah, I can help, I can change your life. Or, you see all these people, they're telling you they've got this system to make money on Amazon. They've got this system to make money on this and that or whatever. And you know what? You're going to sell a dream, a false dream to people, because they're vulnerable. They're in a position that they don't like their life. And maybe 1 in 100 people might succeed with your system. So, and that's not what I'm about. And that's not, I'm not trying to sell anything or anything. What I am is I'm trying to get you from here where you don't want to be to here where you want to be. And it's that simple. And the one thing that I, as a coach, know I can do is, if you don't sign up for my coaching, in 3 years, you're still going to be here. There's a good chance. But if you sign up for my coaching, I can collapse time frames, and I can get you to where you want to be a lot quicker.
Yeah, as a saying I love to say, no matter where you've been or what you've done, you can do anything you want if you're willing to fight for it. But you got to fight for it, right?
Yep.
Got to really push for it. Hey, is there any questions that I have not asked that you would like to answer, or is there anything you'd like to say?
It's a pleasure to be here, like I said, and to talk to you. And you can attest to this: the life of an addict and the post life of an addict, they're night and day. And I mean, the fact that you're helping people, with recovery is amazing. And I think that I'm kind of doing the same thing that you're doing, but I'm just coaching, and it's not necessarily people that are addicts, but I can certainly relate to that. Like, I mean, I could talk to people like you. I could talk to people like you all day long. Like, you're very interesting. You've got a wide, breadth of knowledge and depth.
So how would people get a hold of you again?
Yeah, I think the best way to get a hold of me is on Instagram at Jerry the Coach.
Mhm.
They can also reach out to me through my email, jerry@jerrythecoach.com.
I want to say one thing about you real quick. I think you have a fantastic demeanor about you. I think that, when I look at, I mean, obviously you're in the coaching, but, also with counselors or things like that. And the things that I've always looked for within people are, good demeanors, humility. You definitely have that. You're humble. You definitely have the, knowledge for what you're working to do with the clients. I think you have the right questions, to ask people, and I think in the long run, I think you can be very successful at this. How is your clientele? I mean, are you doing well? Is it?
Yeah, I'm doing much better than I thought I would be doing at this point, because going out and finding clients, it's out of my comfort zone. So it really, it forces me to grow, right? And when you're going outside of your comfort zone, you have to figure out, or when you're doing something that's very uncomfortable for you, you have to figure out, okay, what do I need to work on to grow so that I can be good at this? I think I'm a pretty good storyteller. So I think I tell good stories, and I think I communicate. I think I'm very good at communicating and sounding authentic and genuine. So for me, reaching out to people, I don't man, it's happened to me where people have reached out to me. Oh, you're a coach. That's great. What do you coach? I coach this. And then they're like, oh, we should have a call. I'd love to talk to you. And then they're trying to sell me their services of attracting more clients. And the first question I ask is, do you guarantee? And they go, well, we can't guarantee. Well, then how good is your system if you can't guarantee? But it's that whole side of the coaching where it's just all about making money. And I'd rather, coach five people a week, so one a day, that I'm genuinely connected to and I've built a good rapport than coaching 15 people and making money and then not enjoying my life. I'm really about, enjoying my life. I mean, I've got a morning routine that usually lasts 3 to 4 hours. So I get up at 5, I meditate, then I go for a run, and in between, and then I work out with weights 4 days a week, and I'm putting the proper nutrition into myself. I'm doing yoga and stretching. So, and that's important to me. And it might not be important to everybody and most people, but for me, it's important. It's just a great way to start my day. And in between that, there's a whole bunch of work I do on loving myself, So I'll do the affirmations and I'll do meditations that are guided towards loving yourself. And I think that if I can't really continually love myself, how am I going to help people? If you don't love yourself, it's really hard to genuinely help people.
Well, as the saying goes, you can't teach what you don't have.
Exactly.
So, well, hey, I want to thank you for coming on here. I really appreciate this. And
It's my pleasure.
hey, I want to thank everybody for tuning into another episode of High Wall Clean. Everybody needs to keep looking for that authentic self. Keep getting high, but let's do it clean. And I'll see you next time. Thanks.
Show the world.